I went to the corner, my friends, they weren't there. They said, hey man, you want your share? I turned around and walked away. I didn't want to live nowhere. Street corners with the finest of youth, each one wanting to live the truth.
Hey there, y'all. Douglas Scott McCarron again. This is going to be one of my more personal shares, though it does influence the way I write stories. I always find myself in a lot of my stories like explaining the differences and why the conflicts and why the need to resolve, in particular with men and women. And I think there seems to be a lot of conflict. I mean, there's a lot of love and affection too, but there's a lot of. And I've been doing some coaching with a friend of mine and spending time journaling. And I don't know if this will be of any value to anybody or not, but I wanted to share it because I know some people have deep pains about this and they don't know what to do with it. And I just wanted to share my thoughts. So I call this Doug and his girl problems. And I'm just going to be going through a bunch of the stuff that happened and kind of thinking about it. It's kind of an entertaining story. I cried a lot during it. Now I'm recovered, and hopefully this will help you recover or to look at some of the stuff that's going on with you, and you'll recover. Let's see. This is in addition to my mom's suicide and things like that. So in kindergarten, I'm like, I don't know how old you are in kindergarten. There was this blonde-haired girl who showed up, and I thought she was pretty hot, and the way only 5-year-olds can, I guess. And one day, I don't know, what was I? How old are you in kindergarten? Maybe first grade. Anyway, it was after school. We were sitting around at this thing that the teachers held, where the kids would all sit there so the parents could go off and have some time to themselves. And my sister was there. And she was, of course, usually catting at me. And my sister liked to make digs at me and diminish me. And she noticed I was looking at this girl. So I didn't notice that. Anyway, I was in this room, and this girl went into a closet where they kept all the toys. And I thought when my sister wasn't looking, I ran into the closet and closed the door. So it was very dark. I think I put my hand on her mouth so she wouldn't make any noise, but she bit my hand. And I begged her to stop. And I told her I liked her and she was very pretty. So she didn't bite me anymore. In the darkness, I heard her rustle around, and then she was kissing me. Hey, this is kind of nice, I thought. Then the closet door opened. It was my sister, who started laughing and pointing at us, telling everyone to look. The adults laughed, and the kids threw things at us and laughed. The girl ran out of the closet. My sister kept laughing at me until Mom came, whereupon she told Mom what was going on, and Mom laughed. I told her it wasn't funny and I liked her. Mom said, don't be silly, it's just puppy love. I protested that I liked her. My mom was wrong, and so she slapped me on the face hard. Mom said, don't ever talk to me like that again. I said, but Mom, and she slapped me again. And then my sister started laughing, and so I shut up, and the little girl never acknowledged me again. And I decided it was wise to not show affection to any girl that I liked. But boys and girls, they do these things. In the second grade, another girl, blonde curly hair again, I was in the boys' bathroom and a boy threw water on me and said, "I bet that got your attention." I was mad, but he was right. I thought I would get her attention, so I filled up a paper cup with water and walked into the classroom and threw it on her head. I was happy. I had her attention. She wasn't. She jumped up out of her desk and slugged me in the face. I fell back into the teacher, who grabbed me, spanked me, and walked me to the principal's office. This is back in the 60s. Spanky was going on then. At the end of the day, the principal, teacher, my mom, and the girl's mom, the girl, and I all gathered. 5 people telling me I was wrong. My mom was furious. I said I liked the girl, but was afraid to say so, and that was what I thought of to say. My mom said it was puppy love. I almost repeated it, but Mom slapped me anyway. Then the girl laughed at me and said she didn't even know who I was. So great, I get slapped for wanting to share affection, and apparently my thought that a girl might like me was just a made-up dream in my head. Then there was a girl when I was in the 6th grade. Apparently this attraction between boys and girls keeps going on. By 10, I'm imagining myself in movies, but I would never be the romantic lead. That would involve the woman liking me and kissing me, which I could never imagine happening. I thought more of myself as the outcast, or maybe the killer, the unwanted. And that was just true. There was also the daily ridicule from Mom and sister, and Dad telling me what I did was wrong every day. But there was this girl, and I pined over her, and one time I said hi to her, and she just kind of looked at me and walked away. 13, 14, I'm still enamored of girls, but I don't dare to talk to one directly. In gym class, the boys are on one side of the temporary wall. They have those expanding walls that open and close. And girls on the other side. I recognize a couple of voices and start talking through the joint in the wall to them, and they talk back. I'm enjoying it when suddenly my gym teacher grabs me by my left shoulder and roughly turns me around and asks, "What am I doing?" I tell him, and he says, "Oh, you want to talk to the girls, do you?" and grabs me and drags me to the girls' side of the gym. I was in normal street pants, but they were all in gym clothes. He makes me sit on the first bleacher and tells the girls that I want to profess my love to them. By now, the girls are all sitting in front of me on the floor, laughing, whispering to each other, pointing at me. I was mortified. The girls' gym teacher says, "Come on, tell them." I am squirming, whispering to her, "Please let me leave." But she says, "Come on, tell them." I am looking at both coaches on the verge of tears, pleading. And then the zipper on my pants busted open for some reason. I was horrified. Both coaches snickered and the girls erupted in laughter. And I simply died inside. I went blank-faced. My body just sagged every way it could, and I stared at a fixed point on the floor. I think that was the last time I looked anyone in the eyes without menace or hate until a few years ago. But apparently I hadn't had enough. About a year later, there was a blonde, curly-haired girl. What is it with the blonde, curly-haired girls? But there was no way I was going to admit it. One night I was walking home through the woods to my house, which passed behind her house. So I'm walking in the woods and the light in her room was on. I really wanted some form of connection, and I wasn't going to just get it at home. So I thought I would stand there by her window and wait until she saw me and we could talk through her window. So, I'm standing here in the dark looking in this lit window. I hear a twig crack, turned my head and saw her dad coming toward me in silhouette. And it suddenly dawned on me I was looking in his daughter's window at night. And that wasn't good. So I ran. We lived on an Army base, so the MPs chased me around. There's barbed wire around the whole thing and fence, so I couldn't get out of it. I just kept running through the woods, and they kept chasing me. I came out of the woods at one point, and MP was standing there with his Colt 45 pistol pointed at me and told me to freeze. So I freezed. And he walked over and grabbed me and slammed me down on the hood of the car and stuck his 45 caliber pistol on my forehead. I suppose in his mindset he was, capturing this pervert, but in my mind, I was about to die for trying to tell somebody I liked her. The police took me to the station and interrogated me. I kept trying to evade it was me because they didn't want to admit I was enamored with the girl and get mocked and slapped again. But Dad, who had showed up, said I should stop lying. They all knew that I had done it. Thanks, Dad. He drove me home, told me on the way that whenever I wanted, I could talk to him. I just stared at my feet on the floor. We got home. Mom wanted to know what happened. He told her to forget about it, but she kept asking for a couple of weeks. But I wouldn't even look at her because I would break out crying. But what was the use? She would just mock me and slap me, so I said nothing. Dad's at home. He gets a call from the police, runs out the door, comes back with the son and says, forget about it, don't worry. So she was kind of adamant. That night, I was in my room after coming home, laying in the dark, looking at the ceiling. I got up and went to my window and looked out at her house. And I assumed she would tell her friends and the entire school would know and start mocking me in the morning. Because that's what I was, the boy to be mocked, slapped, and be unwanted. Many years later, I told my dad what had happened, and he expressed his apology and understanding. But that was decades later. That night, as I stared out the window, I wished the MP had actually pulled the trigger. It was preferable to a life of mockery and being unwanted. A few years later, 16 or 17, I met a girl on an Army base. We actually got along pretty well, though I couldn't understand why she liked me. She used to come over to my house and we would talk in my room until one day Mom abruptly opened my room door and ordered her to leave the house. We're not going to have any of that in her house, she yelled at us. We should be ashamed. So I figured it was shameful to talk to girls, or any girl, in my room. Not sure what my mom was thinking was going on there, but anyway, that's what I came away with is don't talk to girls in your room, or at all. But we could talk in public, so we did. So I guess I did keep talking. Once we went to a movie on base, the Army base, but I was totally uncomfortable sitting in the dark with her. I just didn't know what to do. And I was afraid I'd do something wrong, so I became uncomfortable around her and distanced from her. A couple of times she would yell out across the field at me that she loved me. My friends had told me I should be with her. My dad encouraged me, but there was no way I was going to face what I assumed would be Mom and my sister going after me again. So I did nothing with her profession of love. How could I? Eventually she married a soldier. I wished her well, and then went home and cried at night for a few weeks. But at least I didn't have to go through the trauma of thinking I was loved when I was the mocked and unwanted. And I'd have to have my mom give me some crap about girls. I'd be hurt by that. And then several months later, I found my mother after she gassed herself to death in the garage with a car. Like a massive spike of finality. Death of having any right to be loved or connect with anyone. anything. It was all dead. It was all dead as I stared at her lifeless, and the cat on the floor also dead, because of course it had to die with her for some reason. Dead, dead, dead. What was the point of living? Dead, dead, dead. What was the point of being this unwanted, another dead person walking? Pointless. Dead, dead, dead. Then something really amazing happened. As I stared at her, I heard the sound of a large dry tree branch cracking, and I separated. I had the view from my eyes looking at her a few inches away, and also several feet in the air looking down at me, looking at her. And then there was a something, not soothing or loving, but more like something was reaching in while pouring out some part of me. Like soothing or loving would have left me in the same place. With this is more like I was being torn loose from something. And then it was like I was being communicated with at some point within. I didn't know yet at some part that at that point I didn't know was very real. So it got communicated to me that I didn't know was real. What my mind generated was a statement, is that all there is, to be someone's son, to be someone's dad, to be someone's spouse, to work and then die? Is there nothing else? Then my awareness or energy, slammed back into my normal attention. I was a combination of feelings. Dead, but also what the heck was that? And a sudden determination. I didn't know what that was, but it had the feeling of being small, powerful, and sort of in charge. And then I ran to the MP station to get help with my dead mother. Then I went to this college in Germany, small independent college. I'm leaving the name out. I had no idea how to talk to people in general, and women, of course, outside of being friendly and withdrawn. I just assumed I was not wanted. However, my roommate and his girlfriend had sex in the room right every night, so it was awkward. One time she asked if I wanted to join them, but I shook my head no. I couldn't even handle the possibility. But I got to see boys and girls having confusing lives emotionally and sexually with each other. They said they were having fun, but it didn't really convince me. They just seemed to be kind of floundering around trying stuff to me. One guy essentially ended up holding a girl captive in his room and barring the door. And some of the people who worked at the college had to come and take the door down, and he was taken away and banned from college because we never saw him again. There was another boy who was refused by a local high school girl, so he went to his room, broke the door on his room, tore a sink off the wall, caused thousands of dollars of damage, and then offered to pay the school $20 for it. We had a dean of students and the head of the philosophy department, two different guys, having sex with students. The first one didn't really care about the wife's feelings. The second one would have students over for drinks and have a co-ed stay while others left, offering to drive her home in the morning, then stay the night and ask her if she wanted to have sex, or she could walk home the several miles. This bothered me because it seemed abusive to me. I had a wife, a married couple I knew, came to my dorm room and lounged all over me, talked about sex, stuck her tongue in my ear. I was a bit freaked out because A, it was the 70s and we were all supposed to be hip, but I wasn't. And B, I was in her German class and his history class, and I could get flunked if I did have sex, or maybe if I didn't. C, she was embarrassed because I resisted, and she felt unworthy, like me. I walked her home, and her husband seemed annoyed and stared at me, puzzled. I'm not really sure why. And let's see, I would have had sex with her only because it felt I was expected to. This really challenged my nobody loves me, I'm unworthy story, but I reinforced that with what I did with her. I didn't say no, but I just became shielded. It just sort of seemed to me the adults were as weird as the kids were about how they interacted with people. I reacted by withdrawing more. I think I wanted to have sex, but I didn't because it all seemed weird, and the few times I tried it, it was kind of like, eh. The next year, a couple of women invited me in bed. I thought, okay, I guess this is finally it, though I was clueless what to do. I kissed and caressed and felt up one, but she slapped me and elbowed me in the temple and told me I was horrible. She just wanted to be friends that slept together. So I did that. I got the impression most students were having sex. Maybe they weren't. What I got was I was wrong for thinking women wanted sex with me while most others were having sex with guys. So I figured there must be something extra revolting about me because beyond my assumed I sucked and was unwanted. So I did that for a few years. The nice guy friend who never wanted sex. And truth was, I wanted connection, not so much sex. But it was forbidden to me. So finally, I moved to Michigan State University. I'm telling all this because I've heard people talk endlessly about how wonderful they think getting in connections and relationships and sex are, and then I hear there's all this conflict. So I'm just sharing this all uh, just to address that if it applies to you. And also, as I write this, I become really kind of aware that I was emotionally abused as a child. So I met a woman. She was enamored with a guy that I knew, sort of friend of college type. I met her at church. Somehow I got the courage up to start getting involved with her. But she was always complaining. Her breasts were too small, her butt too big. And her dad had committed suicide and she was the last to see him, and she wished she had said something so he wouldn't have done it. She was also complaining about me. I snored. I made smacking sounds when I eat. I walked too slow. She would like walk around in circles around me while I would walk. Complain. But she said nice things also. However, my listening was the complaints. I wanted to be guy who helps with problems. But all I heard is no matter what, there would be a complaint. I didn't think it was working with her. So, let's see. The best I could really do is nothing. I was no prize. One time I was waiting for her. She was chatting with a friend over some pieces of crystal, and I was enraged because she was so inconsiderate. What about me? She was so selfish. Now I know different. But she came back with her friend and showed me this lovely crystal. I raged at her and slugged a concrete wall to signal my displeasure. Fuck, that hurt. But I couldn't show pain because she had to see how bad she was. Bad girl. Then I told her I loved her, This is so hard to read. And I also couldn't play guitar for a couple of months because, hand-picking, punching a concrete wall. Using fear and intimidation to apparently show love. She loved my full name. She seemed to enjoy sex, but I was disappointed. I was a disappointment. Unlike some men, I didn't blame her. I just couldn't connect at all. all the stuff on the past, I figured. So, you watch all these movies and TV stories, and everybody's talking about how mind blowing the relationships are and sex and everything. And then for me, it was kind of like, okay. Anyway, she decided we weren't working, and my belief is she broke up with me. Um, I ran to a woman friend of mine, and to my shock, she wanted me. It was so easy, and I figured maybe I just needed to change my attitude and feeling unloved, and that would all just go away. So I started dating her. I mean, literally, I just came over with, I want to be with you, and suddenly we were like together. But my first girlfriend returned. She was upset. She just wanted a break, not a breakup. Ross and Rachel. I really get why that whole storyline was so big on Friends. I didn't want to hurt her, so I took her back, which upset the second girlfriend, who I didn't want to also hurt. I tried explaining the situation, but they both were upset. It appeared that my efforts to support and connect all of us only harmed. So this went on for a while, kind of being a loser and loved without a girlfriend, and then a loser and a harmful guy with two who were mad at me. Eventually, the second one got tired and went with another guy. I didn't like it and felt like a failure, but at least it was over. So I go back to the first girlfriend, and then she starts chasing this other guy that we both knew, and just kind of went on and on. Then a few years later, we break up. And then a few years later, the second girlfriend sent me a letter saying she wanted to meet. We did. She thought I was really angry at her. I thought she was angry at me. We get together. But just didn't work out. So I ended up later on. Also, one of the first girlfriend's friends decided it was time to tell me that my first girlfriend had felt manipulated and forced in the relationship, and I was horrible for doing that. And then this friend of my first girlfriend kissed me on the cheek and told me she loved me. So that kind of was like, so it just kind of keeps going on and on. And after the second breakup, I just never seemed to have a connection. There was, I don't know, probably asked several hundred women out, and a couple of them went out, and they were kind of my age and kind of dumpy, and they looked at me with looked down their noses at me like there was something really horrible about me. And some of the friendlier, nicer ones said no. A few of them laughed at me. One of them slapped me. One of them spit on my face up here on my head. So I'm starting to think maybe that's why I write about conflict between relationships and love and all that. It also really kind of gets me. It's, I'm just really thankful for how much I've healed, because to me this is kind of normal, but my coach and friends, when I read this, is like, holy crap, you were traumatized. I don't know. But one thing that I do also want to mention is, I've talked in the past about there's like this over story that talks in each one of our heads that kind of runs things. Like all the way back to the first girl in the closet. I came out of there thinking about how horrible it was for me, and, I'd made this big mistake. I wonder what she went through coming out of the closet. Because, she said she didn't even know who I was, but, she kissed me. And I kind of wonder what happened in her head and what her family said and all. So it's just kind of wonder sometimes, this whole biological urge, it's kind of like seems to exist in me as an individual. And I'm just wondering if A lot of us seem to be just in our bubbles and trying to find somebody else's bubble who kind of connects. And I'm just not sure what all that is, except kind of distracts me from being with who I actually am internally. Now I'm very calm and peaceful and self-loving. I mean, I just read all this and was quite calm about it. Got to tell you, cried, agony, angst, several decades. Well, 40 decades. Um, but just settling a lot of the stuff that was in me has really helped a lot. But I just kind of watch the fights that go on, and I know people that they basically have relationships so they can slap each other and express their anger, and that's how they show their love to one another. I'm just kind of like, I don't know about that. It seems to me everybody's, not everybody, but a lot of people are just kind of finding others to fit into their story or fit into their bubble so they can keep being in love with that part of themselves. I don't know. I think that's why movies appeal to us, because that inner imagination, that inner bubble that reflects itself, likes looking at the movies and talking to itself about the inner story. All those great myths, the four basic stories, all reinforce the hold of this thing rather than helping us get loose of it. But, it shows up in my movies, it shows up in my stories. Can't really stop it because it's there. But I'm really kind of glad that I've peacefuled out and pretty much gotten over it. Man, if I tried to read this to you 10 years ago, I wouldn't have gotten through the first 4 or 5 pages. It was so painful. So, do the work, see your therapist, take the courses, meditate. Being a star, making great movies, being the best at what you do, it's all a great story. It makes you feel better. But to me, the most important thing is getting inside and finding that thing that really bothers you and resolving it. Then you can have a real human life, a real full one. Mine was just basically an endless running around in circles, having the same basic, you suck, you're a horrible story. I am so glad I don't have that anymore. Okay, thank you. Till next time, Douglas Scott McCarron.